This is a recorded presentation from our WordPress meetup for WordPress St. Petersburg at the Tech Garage. We apologize for the background noise quality during this presentation, as there was something else going on in the building, and our microphones were just too good and picked it up. Please allow me to introduce Elaine Simmons and Jennifer Novak for their presentation of Should I DIY or Buy a New WordPress Website?
Should I do it yourself? Should I DIY or buy a new WordPress website? That's going to be our talk. Our Wi-Fi network passwords are here at the bottom. Upcoming meetups and events. SEO in WordPress, tools and strategies, is going to be led by Sammy Vani, our very own, in 2 weeks, July 5th. And then we'll have an Ask Us Anything in 4 weeks, July 19th. Let's see, here at the Tech Garage, they're having an event called the Startup Exchange. This month's mentors are a law firm, a lawyer, a marketing and sales consultant, a financial consultant, corporate responsibility strategies person, and somebody from the Tech Garage. It's on Wednesday, June 27th, 4:30 to 6:30 at the Pour Tap Room, which is right across the street. So, make you aware.
Is it a free meeting or is it a charge thing?
I think it's free.
Okay.
Being an entrepreneur is challenging and often lonely. Networking with other entrepreneurs and seasoned business veterans is vital. Startup Exchange is here to help. Come on by, have a seat, buy a drink, and join the conversation. Okay, I want to make you aware of our meetup group URL, our website, Slack. We're available on Slack, Facebook, and on Meetup. We're looking for speakers. If there's a subject you'd like to speak about, you can access a form to fill out, correct? Yeah. On the website. TampaBayWordPress.org speakers/call/speakers/call. So, first start.
Yeah. So a couple scenarios to think about. So if you think about food and eating, and you think about your options for getting food, you can go to the grocery store, you can buy all the ingredients, get a recipe, bring it all back home, cook your food, eat the food, do your dishes. Scenario one. Second scenario, hey, it's late, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I don't have much time, I just need something fast and cheap. Where do you go? Are you going to go fast food, McDonald's, Burger King, like whatever's on the way home, stop and grab that. If you're meeting a friend for like drinks after work, you're probably going to go like just somewhere fairly casual, probably like Chili's or something. You're going to have a waitress who's going to bring you things, or server who's going to bring you food. Got a menu of options that you can choose from. You can get your drink and appetizers, you can get your meal. There's a couple options there. Or if you've got a special occasion, night out, go to the steakhouse, make your reservation at Burns, and you're treated well. You know, you're going to pay well for it, but you know you're going to be treated well there, and your service there are going to be top notch. I think they have to be trained for like 2 years before they can actually become a server at Burns. So there's a whole process. You have to like work your way up to being a server there because they've got so much training to go through to make sure that they've got that customer service spot on. So that's one scenario.
And my scenario is you need your oil changed on your car, so you go to Jiffy Lube. That's one option to get your oil changed, or you figure out how to do it yourself. And you buy some racks and you lift your car and you buy the oil and tools and time and effort. So the quick way, or you pay money and you have it done for you. So our point is?
So obviously, like whether you're looking to DIY or whether you're looking to buy it yourself, there's a number of different options. It depends on how much work you want to put into things. It depends on how much service you're going to need. So from there, we'll
we'll kick it off here. And I'm Elaine Simmons, Elaine Simmons Design. That's my company. I'm a web designer, and I create websites in WordPress that load quickly and look good on mobile devices. I have a background in graphic design, and then I went back to school at P-Tech for web design. And I've been working, mostly in web ever since then.
So I'm Jennifer Novak. I run a company called Next Rise Marketing. That's kind of what I do is kind of a broad spectrum of things under the marketing umbrella, including building websites. I've been making websites like off and on probably since the early 2000s, but I actually was doing HR and recruiting. I learned marketing kind of through there, learned social media through there. I was trying to recruit IT folks, and this was kind of when Twitter was new. So it was still all like mostly IT people on there. So I thought, okay, I got to learn how to do this. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. I am working on an MBA right now, and I've got a web design certificate from UCF. My company's on there. If you're having a trouble seeing these slides and you brought a laptop, I tweeted them out if you want my Twitter. It's not the best copy of it, but it's on there. If you just maximize it, you'll be able to see it. That's pretty much it.
Overview. Well, we were going to say that we have a lot of material to go over. We were not really going to go into detail on this slide, but...
Well, maybe that was me. So one of the things we definitely wanted to point out here was a little asterisk at the bottom. So we're going to throw out a lot of resources. We've got like 50 slides to get through, and it's going to go fast. But the reason for that is because a lot of what's on there is just resources that you're going to need to do research on. So it's just names of companies that you can research and look at, and you'll get copies of these slides. I'll post it in the meetup if I can. We'll tweet it from the Tampa Bay WordPress Twitter account. So you'll find us on social media, and you'll find the slides.
And when you've got the link of it, we can also attach it to the video link on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
We're being recorded, so we'll be on the YouTube
So we
channel.
can't move very far.
Sure you can. You can go all the way from there to all the way to
We
there.
got 5 feet.
You can dance all the way back to the door and back again.
So 2 key thoughts are your time budget and your wallet budget. Time versus cost. So this is something that you might want to think about. I don't know, different people are in different stages of their website. Maybe they already have a live website and they're working on something in the background. You have the luxury of time. You have the luxury of not being in a rush. But if you are in a rush and need the site up and running, do you have the time to learn everything you need to about WordPress? And just wanted to point out, I spent a year at P-Tech learning web design, and then many years after that. So it isn't something you're going to just like pick up real quick. What is the cost of hiring versus do it yourself? So that is another factor. And content creation. Do you have time to write all your content, take all your photos, all the material you're going to need to gather? People don't realize, they say, make me a website. Well, from what? We sort of a partnership. So websites don't build themselves.
So the second key thought kind of throughout this presentation that you want to think about is what is your objective? Is this a personal passion project that you don't want to spend too much money on? Is this a business project that, yes, I'm going to make money on this? Are you making money on this now? You kind of obviously need to kind of think about those two things, but those are the 2 key thoughts throughout this presentation to kind of have in the back of your mind is, what are my goals with this?
Okay, learning WordPress. All right, questions to ask yourself for learning. What do I already know? And what do you need to build on? And how interested are you in learning WordPress? What's your preferred learning style? From coming to this meeting and meeting all of you, I hear different things like I don't want to watch, I don't want to read. Don't make me read anything. or don't make me watch a video. I personally learn well from somebody explaining it, a live person, going over a demo. So that it helps to know what your preferred learning style is. Resources. Google is your friend. YouTube is the second largest search engine. We're always talking about these resources, lynda.com, Bob, WP. We don't talk about that one so much. WP Beginner and WordPress 101. Those are free. All of these are free.
I think WP 101, I'd have to pay for.
Oh,
I think
okay.
that's a subscription. I think it's $99 a year, or at least it was at one time.
Linda's not free either.
It is if you do it through the library system. If you're like the Mountains County,
Okay.
if you log in through the lynda.com, there's two different ways of doing it. Go to the library website and search for lynda.com, and you'll get the link to get into there.
Oh, but I live in Clearwater, and I wasn't able to get it for free. And I even came here to St. Petersburg Library, and they said that I can't get it for free. You're gonna live here.
Check with your Clearwater library.
Yeah, the Clearwater Library and St. Pete has it, Clayton Harbor does not.
Yeah, they're two separate ones.
Yeah.
But you can still do it from, if you do it all, you can do it from home. You don't have
Yeah,
to be at the
you don't have
library.
to be at the library, no.
Okay.
But you do need to get the link or whatever from your library.
So lynda.com is free from some libraries.
Yeah, got it.
I'm in Tampa, so Hillsborough County has the free subscription.
It's also on LinkedIn. If you have LinkedIn, there's In Learning. They have the same classes, I think, in LinkedIn.com.
They've got, they're offering typically like 30 days free or 15 days free or something.
Right.
Just make sure, if you don't want to pay for it, make sure you cancel it before,
Yeah, if
but,
you've already got LinkedIn and you're paying for it, then it's
yeah. Oh, good to know.
And then you can download it and have it corrected.
More WordPress resources are WordPress.org. The Codex, WordPress.org, that is the manual, like the manual for WordPress. Central.
Sorry, I'm reading your notes down there. A great insomnia cure.
That's how I learned WordPress, actually.
It says here, Jen wrote here that the Codex is a great insomnia cure for late at night. CentralWordCamp.org, that has updates on all the WordCamps, and WordPress TV.
That's awesome.
They have recordings of.
Yeah, the WordPress TV is an awesome resource.
So business and marketing strategy. So again, we kind of talked about those two key points to think about. So is this a personal passion, or is this do you have a business purpose? Do you have a clear business plan? How are you going to operate your business, basically? What is the current stage of business that you are in? Are you just starting off? Have you been in existence for a while and you've already got a website and you need a redesign because either it just needs some design updates, or have you noticed your user experience is not what you need it to be? So those are some things to think about. And also, what is your anticipated rate of growth? If you know that you're going to scale up very quickly and you've seen some trending that, okay, this is about to take off, I need to make sure that I've got the bandwidth, I've got the right content on my site, or if it's kind of a slow growth of, hey, I can build this kind of step by step and I can take my time with it, that's kind of another scenario. So you've got a little bit more time to learn as you go. Again, what's the purpose of your website? Is it a blog that, hey, I'm kind of doing this and again, I can kind of take my time with it. It's something that I just enjoy doing, or it's got affiliate links in it. Are you selling digital downloads? Are you selling products? Are you selling services? These are the types of things that you'll need to think about. And if you're going to use a designer or developer, you need to be able to let them know all of those things. And because a lot of times we get emails like, hey, I need a new website. Okay, what do you need it for? Like, what's going on? What's the purpose? And again, all of those scenarios are going to bring you different things if you're building it yourself as well. And from a marketing perspective, always think about who your audience is. A lot of times I get, and I think if you're doing it yourself, the tendency is to, well, this is what makes sense to me. These are the colors that I like. This is the scheme that I want because this is the way that my logic works. But it may not be targeted toward your audience. So really think about the demographics of who is your audience and the purpose of that. Are they coming just to read your blogs and it's going to be a casual kind of, hey, I'm going to take my time reading through this? Or is it, hey, this person sells X, I need X, I'm going to go to this sales page, that's the first page I'm going to click on because I just need to buy things and I need this fast. And again, that kind of covers your business requirements. Your project scope is like, how broad do you need this? Do you need an entire marketing strategy, business plan? Have you already thought about those things and you've got those things already put together? And we're telling you this because a lot of times we get calls from people who haven't quite thought through how their business is going to operate. They have a business idea and it's great, but they're just not quite sure how the flow is going to go. Yeah. And then on the pages of your website, make sure that you've got very clear call to actions. Your call to actions are, if you're on a home page, you want them to click the shop button. If they're kind of scrolling down and they've been there for a while, they're not quite sure if they want to purchase something, you might want to have, hey, give me your email address. So have email sign-ups, subscriptions there. So think about what kinds of things when they get to that website you want them to do on each page. There should be some call to action on the page, and that user experience needs to very clearly and distinctly tell a user when they're on your website, okay, I want you to click here next. This is where you need to go. And these are some things, so if you're a blogger in particular, you want to think about search engine optimization. You want to make sure that you're using those keywords, that you're looking at the long tail keyword, which is basically a phrase. I don't know why they call it that. Like, don't call it just a phrase. But anyway, so if it's a long tail keyword or if it's a short tail keyword, you need to make sure that those things are kind of incorporated into your blog posts. And you can kind of get on into your analytics if you're doing AdWords and see what people are searching to get to your website, and that'll give you other ideas for blog posts. If it's a news site, think about how often you're going to do content updates, who your contributors are going to be if you're going to have more than just you writing for that. If it's local brick and mortar, you want to think about Google My Business and make sure that you've got that set up and that that's pointed all to your website. And if it's online sales, you need to think about your supply chain process before you set up this website, because those components are going to be so critical. And a lot of times we get to hey, I need to sell this product. Okay, but how are you going to ship it? What shipping method are you going to use? If it needs to be weighed, how much does it weigh? And you're going to have to weigh each product and know exactly the dimensions and the size of each product and which box it's going to go into. Think about customer service. So if someone has an issue, who are they going to contact? Where is that? Is it going to be an email? Is it going to be a phone number? And then what your return policy is going to be. So you need to think about those things ahead of time so that you've got that process all set up. And if you're using a designer developer and you know all those things up front, that's going to save you time and you money. If you're doing it yourself, it's going to save you a whole lot of headache, because once you're going to build that website, you've got all those components and you can just whip on through it.
Going back to the previous slide, what does GMB mean?
Google My Business. Google My Business, so it's local search. So when you search for Italian restaurants and you're like, oh, this place is right next to my home or my work, it kind of knows where you are and it feeds you that through Google My Business.
Is it the local search results?
Yeah, it's local search. And then, again, think about what do you need now and versus what can wait for growth. And that's a big component too, because if you come to a designer developer and budget is on your mind, well, hey, I want all of these things. I want the site to be so amazing. It's going to be the best thing ever, but I haven't sold anything yet. So maybe you don't want to do everything right then. Maybe, okay, get your products up, get some descriptions up, get some basic pages filled in, and then you can launch that site. That minimum viable product is what people look for in tech is, okay, this thing, it looks good, people can buy things, let's release it. And then from there, you can think about blog posts. You can think about adding 15 products later and see what's selling. So think about those growth stages. It's going to save you money on the front end. And if you have a developer that you build a relationship with, they're going to take that in consideration when they're quoting costs.
Okay, something that a new website would need would be domain name and hosting. And is everybody familiar with basic top-level domains and best practice for URLs? I think names with hyphens between two words is kind of frowned upon. That's kind of difficult for people to remember. I know from experience, two words that one ends with S, the other begins with S, then you have, your URL has two S's next to each other, and that gets confusing. And so you have to, sit there and write down what your domain ideas are before you find out if they're even available. And some, reputable registrars are Google, Namecheap, Hover. For hosting, I have little graphics here. The first one is the crowded apartment house for shared hosting, and that's cheap hosting, but it's cheap for a reason, and you're going to be sharing space with a lot of other websites, and there's some downsides to that. It's going to slow down your website and maybe set you up for some hacking, and that's never good. The middle one is a little bit more roomy of a building, so your website has a little bit more elbow room to stretch out. And that cost, of course, is a little bit higher. And then the last one is you have run of the whole house. That is for certain websites big websites that need have a lot of traffic and whatnot. So there are costs associated with each of these, so keep those in mind. But you could you could go to these websites about their hosting, and there's all kinds of information on those websites to read. And then you'll have to get up on web hosting. Some reputable hosting companies are SiteGround, WP Engine, Flywheel, and InMotion Hosting. So these are all WordPress related hosting companies. And if you were to go to each of these websites, they would have considerable information about their services, their costs, and their reasons to use each one of these. Familiarize yourself with cPanel. When your hosting has cPanel, and there are a lot of options in your cPanel. When does my bill due? When is it going to come due again? What are some apps I can add to my site? There's just a whole bunch of stuff in cPanel. It's helpful. Plesk is another one. And to access your site through the back end manually and upload some photos or some material, if you're doing some programming, FileZilla, that's the last logo. That's free. Okay, design is a factor to think about for your website. Here's a website, wordpress.org/showcase, and you could look at various websites showcasing the different themes that are free on wordpress.org. Most websites have some basic navigation about home, contact, product, service, blog. And when it comes to writing about your website, should you write it yourself or outsource it to an editor? Write it and then have an editor fix it, have it completely written by a copywriter. But we advise that you don't steal any content from somebody else, because they will know and you will get a penalty. Do you know the basics of image editing, like using Photoshop? Canva, Photoshop is a paid service, very expensive. Canva, Paint.net, and GIMP are free. I can't speak for the last three. I use Photoshop. what kinds of photos are you going to be using on your website? Most likely headshots, portraits of all your staff, maybe a picture of your building, your products, your logo, your branding, and on, your events. Where to get images? You can hire a photographer if it's custom photography that you need. I used to work for a what was it? It was workman's comp for pharmaceutical for workman's comp. Well, in the stock photo world, there aren't any injured, workers like construction workers and whatnot. Those were hard to find, so they always had to hire a photographer, do photo shoots. It was very expensive. But you could get free photos from Pixabay, Unsplash, Pexels. You can buy photos on Shutterstock. Adobe has a photo arm, and iStock Photo is the big one. And there are a million more. You can get permission from Instagram and Flickr. You can take your own photos. Video. Are you comfortable editing and uploading video to YouTube using software such as Adobe Premiere, iMovie, Final Cut, Adobe Spark? So some of those are free, some of those are paid, but you need a powerful computer, and probably, unless that's a hobby of yours, you might want to outsource that. We advise you to use YouTube to host your video and then embed the code and not try to host the video on your own website. And include the closed caption and the SEO description for your SEO.
And why would you recommend not hosting on your site?
Well, YouTube does a much better job of it.
And with my primarily. If you host the videos on your own site, you're responsible for the bandwidth, and that's what you're also being charged for.
Right, and so if you build a website and you link to a video on YouTube, do you
you embed the video on your website from YouTube.
Yeah.
I follow.
It'll embed, so it's like you actually see the thumbnail.
Yes, and I've used that method because sometimes when I'm building a site and someone wants Facebook presence on there, you have to be really careful not to stream.
Right.
Because that's going to take a longer time for your page to load.
Right.
Okay, I follow now. I thought that's what you were talking about. Not just a link to YouTube, but there's free tools to download and then.
Well, in WordPress actually, if you type in the URL for your YouTube, it'll automatically embed it. So, and they'll do that for Vimeo too. So, yeah.
Does the backlink to YouTube help your SEO?
Yep.
But we're also advising that that very last line, do your SEO description, do your homework, and put those keywords in there.
Thank you.
And color scheme, whether or not you're good with colors. I do see some websites that don't look that great. Are you familiar with color trends? And here's just a link to that. A lot of themes have their own color scheme, so you don't have to worry about it anymore. If you're truly, not good at that kind of thing. Get a basic theme that is well written, and the bells and whistles can be added later. And then we have a second URL, tampabaywordpress.org/video archive. We have a whole video that Jim did on themes. So we're not going to get into themes. Then they're builders, and I think that was also covered on that. Beaver Builder, Divi, Visual Composer. Gutenberg is getting in on the builders. Oh, whoops.
Sorry. That was my fault. There's a nicer looking slide, what she just said.
Funny.
Okay.
So for plugins, just some things to think about when you're searching for a plugin. A lot of times we get questions of, well, what's the best plugin to use? Well, if you go into WordPress and start searching for plugins, or even if you just go to a Google search, there's just some things to look at, and you can kind of see, like right in here, you can see the score, you can see the number of downloads, and usage. So if you click on those in WordPress, it's going to give you a lot more information. So you can, like, I always click on the support tab to see like how many requests for support they're getting or how they offer support. And then if it's, hey, we don't do support here, here's a link to our support hub. I go there and click and see, like, are they responsive? Are they actually like using it? And what kind of issues are people having? Are there some compatibility issues? Look at the date that it was last updated, and then you should be able to look at like what the updates were for that last version. And then again, the number of downloads, and then a lot of plugins will offer like a freemium or a light version of their plugin. So you can kind of test it out a little bit, make sure like, yeah, this is what I was looking for, but I need some extra features, and then you can go pay for that feature. So just some things to think about, and that's kind of a cost savings there. And then, what else? Version compatibility. Obviously, make sure if you're building a new site, you're most likely on the newest version of WordPress, or should be on the newest version of WordPress. So make sure that it's compatible and that it's been updated recently enough to be compatible with that.
Okay, so SEO, we are going to blow through SEO because Sammy is going to give this talk in 2 weeks.
Sammy.
So real quick, should you use Yoast plugin or SEO all-in-one plugin? That you would use one or the other. That especially with WordPress that have a lot of hooks for SEO and streamlines your life. Set up accounts with Google Analytics and Search Console, which used to be known as Webmaster Tools. Google tags, set up AdWords, use keyword planners, Google My Business, on-page SEO, link building. Okay, come back July 5th. Let's see, Sammy Bound.
So for system administration, basically it's when you're building that new site, if you've got an existing site, you probably want to use a staging site, so that would be something like staging.whatever your domain is .com. So it kind of creates a new file folders, so you can go in, make all your updates, and no one on the outside world has to know. If it's a new site, a lot of times you'll get to the URL and like there's plugins that you can use that will create like an under construction page. What I suggest is that you make like a one-page site before you do anything else that gives people a way to contact you. Like for this one, it's like a sign up for our newsletter. There's no other information on that page because the website's not been built yet. But hey, it's something awesome is coming. It's going to be really great. We're not going to tell you what it is yet, but it's going to be awesome. So it kind of just gives you, it just gives something, kind of a taste of what's coming, and that way you don't have just, like a lot of times you used to see those little construction worker, like under construction pages. Those do you no good, and people are probably going to forget about you. So do something like this. And then if you're using the staging site, if you if you already have an existing website and you've got that staging.yourdomain or dev.yourdomain, you need to look at, okay, how am I going to get this from the production stage, from that domain, over to my live domain? There's a lot of plugins that you can use, and Elaine's going to mention some of those. And Jim also did a presentation on that, so you can go to the archive for this WordPress and find that presentation there.
All right, so if you build a website, you're going to have to maintain it and keep it updated, and the security is a huge issue today. Keep your plugins updated. Whatever the newest best practices are going to be, design trends, and how often you're going to back it up, your hosting is going to back up your site. It's always good to have peace of mind about how often that you have your site backed up. So there's some companies that handle, either you do it manually or there is a system you can set up. Manage WP, I'm using that one for a bunch of sites. That's great. It's very low cost. Backup Buddy is a paid plugin that you would use manually. Vault is a little more pricey, but it's pretty good. So you have to have a plan about
backing up a sec. So just some thoughts if you decide that you do want to hire someone. A lot of times we get asked about our hourly rate. It's probably like the worst decision to hire on because there's factors in there that you don't know. If you're looking at a $20 person versus an $85 an hour person, you have no idea. Like you don't know. I mean, maybe the $85 person is faster, twice as fast as the like 5 times as fast as the other person, and that could actually save you money. So just something to think about. Don't look at that. Think about, okay, what do I need? And then contact the designer or developer from there. And then just knowing your own budget, just kind of knowing in your head, okay, this is about the amount that I want to spend or I'm able to spend. So think about that perspective. And then there's always that trust factor of contacting someone. Just make sure that when you're talking to someone, this is someone that you feel like, yes, I can trust that person. Look at their track record, their personality. Make sure that it's someone that you want to work with because you're going to be spending a whole lot of time with this person. So just make sure that you guys get along, that your communication styles are similar. Talk to them about, well, how will I communicate with you during this process? If you're somebody who only likes to talk to people on the phone, you want to tell them that, let them know that up front. If you're, okay, I want to email them, maybe they have preferred means of communication. I use Slack for a lot of projects, or I'll do email or messaging, just because it's easier and faster than phone calls and email. And then just kind of researching and knowing what specialty you need. Maybe you need that marketing person because, hey, I've got my business plan in place. I'm just not sure how to set everything up and how to market it because all your marketing should point back to your website. All your social media needs to point back to your website. So you're going to need to kind of think about from the website out and from outside in. So you want to kind of put together a marketing strategy for that. If you don't have that marketing strategy, talk to somebody who does marketing. If you kind of have an idea of this is what I want it to look like, it's a fairly simple and not so complex as in not highly customized, like you can find plugins for what you need. Contact the designer. They're going to make it beautiful. They're going to make that user experience work well for you. If you know that you need a lot of customization, hey, there's not plugins available for this, and my website has some pretty heavy things that I need it to do, or like moving parts is kind of what I call them, you're probably going to need a developer. If you talk to a designer, they're probably going to let you know, hey, we need to get a developer in on this. They might work together. I work together with developers because there's some things I do kind of marketing and design, and there's some things that, you know what, I'm not sure I want to touch that because I understand what you need, but let me get a developer. And even that relationship still can save you money because that designer already knows what you need and can explain it clearly to the developer. Whereas maybe if you're not quite sure how to explain it to a developer, it's going to take a little bit longer of a process there. And then maybe you need an agency or team. Maybe it's a huge website. It's been in existence forever. You work for Amazon, like somebody. Maybe like you need that huge website, and then you need that entire team put together. And then some things to think about too is like you're looking for a partner. You're looking for someone that you can trust enough to advise you. This person that you hire should be expert enough in building websites, and you should be the expert in your business. So those two together, it creates a partnership. It's not typically, hey, I want this to look like this, go make it. You're probably not going to have that relationship with a designer, a developer, a marketer, or anyone, really. That's going to be a difficult relationship. Where to look? Obviously, like you're coming to WordPress meetups. Just do a Google search for people in Tampa Bay, people locally, or if you've got a specialty niche, look for people who work in that niche. Twitter search. I find a lot of WordPress developers on Twitter, and I learn a lot on Twitter. And I've got lists created on Twitter of people who work in WordPress locally, in Florida, nationally, globally. So think about that. And then also with WordCamps, like we just had WordCamp Europe. So I can search that hashtag. There's people from US who went to WordCamp Europe. There's people in Europe who obviously went to WordCamp Europe. So I can search that hashtag and find other people in that community that I can communicate with and talk to. And maybe they, especially the speakers, a lot of times will tweet out their slides, so you can get a lot of slide information that way. It's just quick and fast. LinkedIn, obviously, Dribble and Behance are kind of portfolio sites, so you can do some searching in there. Payment, just kind of expect that payment is going to be like in project stages. Most websites are going to be like in 2 to 3 payments. The person might prefer that, hey, this is what it's going to cost. I want you to pay me weekly. If it's a smaller site, they might want you to pay it all up front. So just kind of think about that and be prepared for that. And then some other thoughts.
Oh, okay. Your website is never done. It's like a living, breathing thing, and what seemed like a great idea, 3 years ago may evolve, and with your Google Analytics and watching it, you figure out, you know what, nobody goes to this section, this page, I'm going to get rid of it, or I need more of that, and so it's just inevitable that some maintenance and some changes need to happen, and so learn from Google Analytics. What's going on?
Plan for redesign in 2 to 3 years, probably. Every now and then we run across something okay, maybe you don't need a redesign, but design trends change pretty frequently. So if you're doing something that needs to be kind of on that cutting edge, or you're selling a product or something, you need to kind of think about design trends and how are you going to keep abreast of new design trends, where you go for new design trends, and make sure that you're noticing those when you're visiting websites, what's going on. Some like fairly recent design trends, like one that we kind of have like really mixed feelings about, and we're hoping they kind of go away, is the sliders, because it's a resource hog sometimes. And if you've got a slide, a lot of people want to put the sliders at the top because, hey, this is the most recent thing that's going on. It's really important that I have them see it. And I'm like, okay, but people are spending like 5 seconds probably on your homepage. Nobody's going to that third slide. Nobody's ever seen it. Nobody cares what's on it. They're not going to be there. And it also is going to take longer to load on the page. So make sure you find somewhere else for that. The parallax, I personally love parallax, but I've been on some websites where it's like you scroll up and down. It's like, okay, I'm dizzy. I have no idea where I am on this page, how far down I've scrolled anymore. And I got to go look at something else because I'm about to pass out. So use with caution. It's a design trend now. In next year, the year after, it may not be. So it's just something to watch and kind of think about. And the flat design, we've kind of seen that with graphics and with icons. It's been super trendy in the last couple of years. And now we're seeing a little bit more depth to some design. So just some things that are kind of coming on the cusp to think about. So we're kind of towards the end. So
we went over a lot of information, so I guess we're going to open this up for questions.
So, I mean, basically just the recap there. So again, some things that hopefully you've kind of thought about towards the end is that time versus dollar budget, and like the purpose of your project, the passion project versus the business goals, and whether it's an existing business. And hopefully you've seen kind of on these slides where we've put all of these things that we promised you in the beginning, so you can kind of determine whether you want to outsource it. You've got resources to learn to build a new website that you can go in Google, because Google's going to be our friend if it's not already. Like, I love Google. I Google like crazy, stupid things because it's just there and it works. And then determining the goals for your websites and the steps. So we kind of walk through the steps of like ideation, marketing, business, to getting your domain, your hosting, to, I don't remember what else, we have to look at that, but we walk through all the steps there. And then kind of determining, like, if you want to hire someone, which type of person do you want to hire? So, do you DIY or do you buy? Well, it really just depends. Kind of just like, where are you going to get food tonight? It just depends on whether you feel like stopping at the grocery store. Depends on whether you want to go to Chili's. Is it better to change your own oil or to go pay someone to change your oil for you? Well, again, it depends if you really love doing that. If it's something you don't mind spending time on, if you don't have anything else to do on your Saturday afternoons and you've got a nice shady tree or an air-conditioned garage, whatever it takes. Or for me, like, I know how to change my oil. That was one of the first things my dad taught me, like when I learned how to drive. But you know what? It's really nice in the air conditioning at the service center, and I can make more money sitting on my laptop with their Wi-Fi than I can paying somebody to change my oil. So again, it really just depends. So we're going to open up for questions. If you want to get our contact information, it's all here. If you want to grab a screenshot of that or a photo of that, we've got all our contact information, email addresses, how to connect with us on Twitter, and our websites. So, anyone have any questions?
This GoDaddy is a good hosting site?
It depends. It depends on what you're looking for. GoDaddy has a lot of money for marketing, so a lot of people know their name. I personally...
We could go back to that slide with the crowded...
I don't always recommend them because they do a lot of upsells, I feel like. You're going to get a lot of email about, hey, this is our other 5 services we want to sell you today. And that kind of bothers me. It also bothers me when they do it to my clients, and then I get calls about, hey, they said they do SEO for X amount of dollars, and then it would be done. Like, well, not really. And Sammy's going to tell you. I'm sure. So it really just depends on what you need. If you want to look at some of these, that's you got
the crowded, the one on the left with the crowded apartment house, the most crowded you can imagine.
Yes.
That'll be GoDaddy.
Yes.
I mean, GoDaddy does have dedicated, but you have to pay a lot for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The other 4 you mentioned are...
I think they're...
And there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of hosts out there.
These do really well with WordPress. They're kind of geared towards WordPress. SiteGround is probably the most inexpensive, followed by InMotion. They might be around the same. WP Engine and Flywheel offer what they call managed WordPress. Like when I say they do everything for you, like it's insane the things that they do for you. I'm used to like managing my own websites in the back end and using cPanel and FTPs and all this stuff. So I contacted the support because I couldn't figure out how to do something with WP Engine. And I'm like, well, how do I do this? I can't find it. So I'm like, while they're waiting for chat, I'm still Googling. And she's like, oh, I just took care of it for you. I go, okay, but how did you do it? What do I do next time I need to do this? And they're like, oh, you just contact us. That's what you're paying for. Yep. So it's really nice that they do all the upgrades for you. They make sure your plugins are updated. They watch what plugins you're using to make sure that they're secure plugins and that you've got some pretty like top-notch plugins. So it's a really nice service. It is more expensive.
I have found like Bluehost and DreamHost are good too.
I have a DreamHost account. Bluehost, DreamHost, GoDaddy,
HostGator,
and there's like HostGator is another popular one.
A lot of them are actually they're all actually in the exact same data center.
Yeah,
but
like Bluehost,
differently.
DreamHost, HostGator, and GoDaddy. GoDaddy not so much, but those 3, they're all in the exact same data center. So they're all in the exact same building with all the same servers and everything else. They're just using a different name up front.
Yeah.
And I mean, Bluehost has a really good connection with WordPress.
Mm-hmm.
DreamHost doesn't so much. GoDaddy has a very big connection with WordPress. They sell managed WordPress slot key sites. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those kind of things. It's like you really just have to do your research.
Yeah. If you Google, it's EIG, it's Endurance International Group, and you'll get lists of the companies that they own. It's a big group, so they go and buy, like they bought Bluehost, I think it was about 3 years ago, maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Because one of the, I'm a designer and I was working on a site, and one of the problems that they had a lot of visitors coming in, and the weekend before their event, the site went down.
Yeah.
And it's because they said they didn't have a dedicated server. So then my client went out.
Their traffic increased.
Yeah, and so then at that point, the client went out and got DreamHost.
They're about the same.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I mean, DreamHost they have managed WordPress sites
so it depends on which package you have, I guess.
They've got a DreamPress is what they call it, is their WordPress managed services, and it's kind of like WP Engine's managed service and like Flywheel's managed service.
So look at the package levels underneath there as well.
The more you pay for it, more than likely, the better it's going to be.
Yeah.
Sure.
But you want to make sure that you're getting guarantees as far as like, are the things that are running where I am, are they stepping on somebody else's things?
Right.
You know, am I completely isolated? Like if I go down, or if this site over here goes down, is it going to bring my site down? And that's the biggest thing you have to worry about. Is like if I'm sitting, if you think about it on the lines, like if I'm in a gigantic condo and I'm up on the 15th floor and there's somebody down here on the 6th floor has a fire, does it burn everybody else out above it?
Right.
You know, that's shared hosting. Am I on a floor that I have my own little fire escape and I can jump off on? And that's managed.
And that would be more like SiteGround or maybe some of the others.
SiteGround does kind of do that sometimes, but they also share as well. But they have.
So the packaging and the levels is very important.
So it's really, it's based not so much on cost per month or what their turnaround time is, or they talk about their page loading and all that stuff.
There's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of
criteria to it.
Yeah.
So what the biggest question is to ask is the shared hosting type questions.
Yeah.
If
so
your site is going to anticipate a lot of traffic, you want to be sure that you have that fire escape.
If you've got an existing client, since you're a designer, if you've got an existing client coming to you, make sure you find out, like on Google Analytics, how many hits do you have per month? So that's going to tell you some things. And if you look at like the resources on their website, and again, that's where you like why you make sure you don't have YouTube on it, like you're not hosting it, because that's another resource.
Yeah, WP Engine is really good about they have their own traffic tracker, and you can see it inside the dashboard. It's insane. Very helpful, but it also lets you know how close you're getting to that person really needing to be a completely isolated site, as opposed to inside your account as a staging site too.
Someone back here have a question, and I saw him, but I think it's someone else.
What was it?
WP Engine, it's in their dashboard. Yeah.
And you have a question?
Two questions. See if I can remember both of them. One of them, would a dedicated IP address help isolate your site within the server? And secondly, how I've seen some providers advertise that they have a high-end and a high-speed SQL server dedicated to SQL service as opposed to the other stuff.
I can probably get that one.
Yeah.
Dedicated IP is like, honestly, nowadays, everybody gives you dedicated IP. Unless it is a shared domain host, like a shared GoDaddy doesn't give you dedicated IP. They'll give you like a name server to one. The only time you have to have a dedicated IP is when you're using SSL and having e-commerce with an exchange gateway, a gateway that actually has to go from, the money has to go through a channel specifically into the bank. That's the only time you've got to have a dedicated IP. But almost every single time you buy a host nowadays, as long as you're paying more than $25 a month, you're getting a dedicated IP.
Okay. My question really was, will a dedicated IP help isolate your services?
No. That's based on your DNS. Most servers, typically inside the hosting company, they have their own little addressing stack. And they basically go by, like even WP Engine has a very specific naming structure for your IP and your staging server.
Right.
That IP address is given to you, so I do have one. But it's really about your domain services in between. That's what creates the block down. Think of it along the lines of like you got a postman up here that is delivering the mail, and you got a place down here that has the address.
Right.
If you're in a PO box.
I understand that the IP address will get you the interest of the server.
Yeah.
And your server, your URL will get you to your specific spot.
The closer to having a dedicated IP, yes.
And a shared hosting.
The dedicated IP is going to speed all of that up.
Would you just go straight to that corner of the server?
It depends on your DNS services. It depends on your domain name services. If your domain name services are shared, like a GoDaddy, you're going to have a problem. If you go to Cloudflare, which is a dedicated domain name services, that's going to be faster. That's why WP Engine doesn't do domain name services. You offload the domain name services to Cloudflare because Cloudflare has backups across the entire. It's basically like the same thing of having the registrar in multiple places, but that's only the name. Cloudflare is the IP and the name across the entire planet, basically. And there's multiple companies like that as well.
And so the second question was...
On the SQL Server, you're going to get your own slice of the pie no matter what, you're never going to get your own dedicated SQL server unless you pay a buttload for it.
Well, marketing, I've had companies market to me that they have high-end servers dedicated to their SQL servers to include even some SSD drives.
All hosting companies have SSD drive SQL servers. They have to.
Okay.
They're all on blades. All of your primary hosting companies, they're all on blades. They're all SSD drives. They're all quick chain connection, everything. It's like all this technology that I don't even want to think about anymore. But yeah.
It's been a long time since I've been in the data center.
But you're never going to get a dedicated SQL server anymore. Nowadays, it's always going to be, even honestly, most of your servers nowadays are still, some of them are virtual. It's a virtual blade, it may be a virtual slice, it may be a virtual something of some kind. You're never going to get a physical server unless you pay out of your, a lot. Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I was, you were talking about embedding YouTube videos at one point.
Yeah.
I've been doing that, but I've noticed that it can slow down your website, especially if there's more than one. Does anyone know any better way to do it other than taking the embed link? That would be faster.
No.
That's about as fast as you're going to get. I mean, it's about the same as using a link to it.
I mean,
it's just,
I've used like the video galleries.
Yeah.
Plugins, like, is it Foo? Foo Gallery has a Foo video gallery type setup. And I mean, they'll grab like a thumbnail version of it and they won't actually load the embedded part until the person actually clicks on it. And that's something you can do, is that instead of actually embedding all of them on the same page, like I do on our website, is to actually just put the thumbnail there and only show it on a detail page for them.
That's actually a good way, because I had one gallery plugin that didn't do that, so it takes like 7 seconds to load.
Yeah, you don't want that. Yeah, he's right. I mean, like if you go to our Tampa Bay WordPress videos, that's what I do, is I embedded all of those, and yeah, they do take quite a while to load.
Yeah, you can also use a lazy loading.
Yeah.
So that only when the video comes into view on the page will it actually go get that video.
Oh, yeah.
So if you have a gallery with, let's say, a dozen videos and only 6 of them will show on the page, then those 6 have been got. But the next 6 it isn't going out and getting those, and they're not waiting on that.
Yeah, I remember you talking about.
But if you only had 2 going across, let's say you had 2 columns, and so you had 6 going down, now you have 4 on the page, right? Or 2 on the page, only those would be loaded. And then as the person scrolls down the page, it would go hit the next. But because it's not bringing that many in at a time, it seems like they're there right away.
Yeah, videos that might actually be very good at lazy load. Thank you.
Thank you.
any other questions?
Are you familiar with the difference between WordPress.org and WordPress.com?
Yes.
That was a good answer, Jen.
Say, I'm asking for a friend.
Good answer.
Had your website accidentally on WordPress.com, would it be worth to change it to WordPress.org?
I would
It depends.
say so. Yeah, I think it depends.
It honestly depends.
And again, you go back to that time versus money and personal project versus a business resource. If it's a business resource, you probably do.
Well, it also depends on if they're paying for, if you're paying for WordPress.com, you're actually going to have a better hosting plan than you would if you weren't paying for WordPress.com.
Yeah.
Like, and then they have another level of WordPress VIP where you're paying even more money to have a better quality thing. But again, the only difference is that you're not building anything. You're building on top of it. You've got a WordPress platform, but you're not worrying about hosting. You're not worrying about plugins so much. You're not worrying about anything. You're just, it's good for blogging. It's really good for...
It's a personal project and I need somewhere to put this that's inexpensive and I don't have to worry about it, then yeah, it's fine. .com.
It's simpler.
Yeah.
.com is simpler.
Yeah.
And more straightforward. And And the quality can be very high if you get their VIP plan or
Yeah.
middle of the road plan, pretty good. But it's limited in your flexibility, right? You can do much, much more in terms of how you want your site to work and what kinds of features you want to have, and what plugins and what kinds of, or what theme you want and what features your theme should have and all that kind of stuff in WordPress.org. But somebody has to do the work. Maybe you, maybe somebody you hire. But work has to be done because every one of those is custom. Somebody has to manage those and create those. Like WordPress.com is much more, they're stamped out. You can make some changes, but you're limited to which themes you can pick, which plugins you can pick, how you do this, how you do. You go to their more expensive plans, you have a little bit more freedom to make some changes, but you're still vastly more limited there in terms of options than you are in the .org side.
And you will
the .org side's a lot more complicated too, and so it depends on whether you care about the flexibility and the freedom to make your exact choice, or whether you want simpler. I just want to do this, And WordPress.com kind of competes more with the Squarespaces and the Wix and whatever of the world. They're not exactly the same, but they're much closer to that than WordPress.org, which is like you can do anything.
Well, and two, sometimes if you're only wanting to do publishing, and that's really primarily what you're focused on, is just on publishing, you can do Medium.
Which one?
Medium.com.
Medium.com, is that another service? Or?
Yeah, Medium.com is basically publishing.
That's M-E-D-I-U-M.
Medium, the Medium word, yeah, Medium.com. It is a shared publishing across all manner of technologies, but if you pay for a plan at Medium, you can actually kind of create your own magazine, is kind of what it's like. So you have the ability to do a lot more bibliography type stuff and things along those lines. There are certain companies that's what they focus on. They only are worried about publishing, and so they have completely decided to do all of their publishing angle through Medium.com. That's what the whole Gutenberg and stuff with WordPress, that's what they're trying to compete with.
You get access to their audience when you join up with their platform, but they own your stuff.
They do.
So,
well, no, you own your copyright.
Later,
you own your copyright.
Yeah, but everything's pointing to Medium.
Yes.
You can't move that that traffic over to your site. They own the traffic. You don't own the traffic.
But it depends if you care about that. Again, I'm just giving out an option.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because I've known several.
Money and takes your chances or choices.
Yeah,
right.
Because you also, with that extra bit of the fact that they do own it, because it does have Medium in the name, you also get a lot of extra cross traffic because of it. I know a lot of people that actually they have their own sites, but they actually do double publishing. They publish on their site and they publish on Medium just for the mere sake of getting their content out there to a more visible audience. And it's different than Facebook or YouTube or Instagram because they really are a self-contained article.
And there are other publishing sites like Hub Pages.
Hub Pages and some of the others.
Shares the advertising revenue with their audience. Does Medium.com do that?
I think so, if you check into them, yeah. I primarily looked at them as for the publishing angle because I had a couple of clients that were writers and were putting a lot of content out there, and that was what they were looking at because you can brand the experience for your channel, kind of like you do with YouTube. Like if your primary product is articles, and if that's what you're doing, is you're writing good stories and you've got pictures and you've got a really nicely designed page, and you want links between most of your own stuff and bibliographies, Medium's awesome for that. And that's what I was looking at it for other writers. And they do have a branded experience, but you pay for it, so that you can have my magazine.
If you go to Medium.com, can you come to this meeting?
Sure. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, because you're trying to figure out what you want to do as far as what it all comes down to. Our WordPress meetups are about. I've always felt like this particular meetup, we've always been about the entrepreneur. We've always been about the freelancer. We've always been about, because St. Pete's got the oldest people in all of Florida in Tampa Bay. You know, they all come over here to retire. But we're not done working.
Some of us are.
Yeah. But when we don't retire, we get a certain age and we don't retire. We do retire, but we don't. We leave our regular jobs and we go into other stuff. And that's what I've always felt like this meetup kind of like signifies quite well, is that we have a lot of people here who are in their second careers or their third or fourth careers. And we have a lot of self-employed people. We have a lot of people that are freelancers. We have a lot of entrepreneurs. We have a lot of all of that. And I'm okay with any of that being here because that's what we do. WordPress is a tool. That's all it is. It's a tool to help you get your business going where you need it to go. Any other questions, folks, for the wonderful ladies here?
You've just watched a recorded presentation from our WordPress St. Petersburg meetup. We meet twice a month on the first and third Thursdays of the month in downtown St. Pete at the Tech Garage. If you've enjoyed this presentation and found it useful, please give it a thumbs up in YouTube, and be sure to subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to be notified when new videos are added. You can find out more about WordPress St. Petersburg at our website at tampabaywp.org and at our meetup site at meetup.com WordPress St. Petersburg. Thanks.